All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going deep on something that, well, honestly sparks a lot of debate and really strong feelings too,
Yeah.
What is Bitcoin even for?
Right.
There's so many different things, right? You've got digital gold, you've got people talking about it like it's the future of money, some even saying it's like a human rights tool. And we got a ton of great material from you, the listeners,
Yeah, it's been fascinating.
that really digs into this. And what's becoming clear, at least to me, is that there's no one right answer. Bitcoin isn't just one thing. The best answer, well, it kind of depends on you, on your situation, on where you are in the world.
Absolutely.
So let's dive in and see what we can discover together, shall we?
I'm excited to unpack this. It's remarkable how one technology can be interpreted and used in so many different ways. I mean, just going through what you all sent in, it's clear we're going way beyond just looking at price charts. We're talking about deep societal and economic shifts.
Like fundamental stuff, right?
Yeah, about value, about personal freedom, even our relationship with energy.
Let's start with maybe the most common thing you hear about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
This idea of it being a store of value.
Okay.
The digital gold, right? I mean, our sources, they definitely touch on this.
Yeah.
They point out the scarcity, the fact that there's only ever going to be a limited number of Bitcoin, and the rate at which new ones are created, it keeps decreasing over time.
Right.
And then you look at the graph we've seen, it's almost 200%, like 196.7% compounded annually over the last decade.
It's impressive. And when you combine that with the fact that big institutions, like major investment funds, are starting to put Bitcoin in their portfolios.
Like they're not just dipping their toes, right? They're
taking it seriously.
And even regulators in the US are allowing banks to offer custody services. It really starts to feel like maybe this whole store of value thing isn't so far-fetched.
Yeah, it's gaining legitimacy. I mean, Rick Ryder, the chief investment officer over at BlackRock, one of the biggest, asset managers in the world.
Oh, yeah.
He said that Bitcoin, it could actually one day, replace gold. That's a pretty bold statement.
That's huge coming from someone like that, right?
Exactly, especially from someone managing trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it ties into this concept called the stock-to-flow ratio, which our sources bring up.
Stock-to-flow, okay.
It's explained by an economist named Saifedean Ammous.
Okay.
And the interesting thing here is how gold and Bitcoin, they're not like typical commodities, right? They're not just valuable because we use them up or consume them. It's about the existing supply versus how many new ones are being produced.
So back in 2017, the total amount of Bitcoin, it was already like 25 times bigger than the amount it was being mined that year. And the source says this ratio, it's only going to get bigger, like bigger than gold's even.
Right, especially during this current halving cycle.
So that's a big part of this digital gold argument, right? That it's becoming harder and harder to get new Bitcoin.
Precisely. And it creates this scarcity that is very similar to gold. However, one of the sources, it points out that even though this digital gold story, it sounds good, we're still a long way from everyone actually using Bitcoin as their main store of value.
It's not like it's replacing gold just yet.
Not quite.
We're still early, right?
Yeah, it's still early days.
Yeah. I mean, in 2021, only about 500 million people were using cryptocurrencies. That's about where the internet was back in '97.
Wow.
And projections say maybe 1 billion by 2024. So plus, Bitcoin's value, while it is big, it's still only a small percentage of gold's market cap.
It's dwarfed by something like Apple.
Yeah.
So the digital gold story is definitely compelling, but it's just the beginning.
Yeah, it's still unfolding.
And that makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
If it's not this universally accepted store of value, like gold has been for centuries, what else is it good for? And this is where we have to look beyond, the typical Western financial system.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you live somewhere with a stable economy like Europe or the US, the idea of using Bitcoin for your everyday shopping, it can feel kind of risky, right? With the price going up and down all the time.
Yeah.
Our source points out that for a currency to work, to really work, it needs to be stable. You need to know that what it buys today is pretty much what it'll buy tomorrow.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how do you plan
Right. How do you save for the future?
Yeah, long term, or even take out a loan or anything.
Exactly. All of that becomes way more complicated when the value of your money is fluctuating so much.
Yeah, totally.
But here's the thing. The source then says, this isn't the reality for everyone in the world.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Because in some places, Bitcoin might actually be the more stable option. Think about Venezuela. They had hyperinflation, like just crazy.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine.
Prices went up 10 million %.
10 million.
Between 2016 and 2019.
That's just...
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So in that situation, even though Bitcoin is volatile, it can still be safer than your national currency.
It might actually be a better way to protect what little savings people have left. No wonder Venezuela is one of the countries with the highest rates of Bitcoin adoption.
And it's not just them. The data shows that places like Kenya, Nigeria, Vietnam, they're also leading the way.
It's not always because of hyperinflation, though.
Right.
Sometimes it's more about how much they're actually using Bitcoin for transactions
Interesting.
compared to the size of their economy and how much internet access they have.
So the internet, it's like this gateway to a whole new financial system.
Yeah.
And it's giving access to people who have traditionally been excluded.
Totally. I mean, the numbers are startling. Back in 2017, you had 1.7 billion adults worldwide who were unbanked.
Completely unbanked.
Yeah, and then another 1.5 billion.
So that's what, like over 3 billion people?
Yeah, more than 3 billion people.
That's huge.
Who either have no bank account or can't access basic financial services like credit.
That's a massive portion of the world's population.
It is. And when you consider that almost 60% of the world now has internet access.
Right.
Well, Bitcoin, it lets them save, send, receive money without needing a bank. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
And a perfect example of this is El Salvador. They were the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender. Think about it. 70% of their population doesn't have a bank account. And they rely heavily on remittances. Family members working abroad, sending money back home. It's about 23% of their entire GDP.
Right.
About $6 billion every year.
And I've heard the fees are like really high with traditional services.
Yeah, they can be outrageous. Sometimes 10%.
Wow.
Sometimes even 50%.
That's half their money gone just to send it.
It's crazy. And our source, it actually did the math.
Yeah.
If Salvadorans use Bitcoin instead, they could potentially save around $400 million annually.
That's a lot of money. That could make a real difference in people's lives.
Absolutely. But there's even more to it. Their economy has been dollarized for years.
Right.
Meaning they don't have control over their own monetary policy. They're basically at the mercy of the U.S. Fed.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this Bitcoin law, it's about more than just saving on fees, right?
Exactly. The law explicitly says it aims to boost economic growth and achieve some level of monetary independence.
Like taking control of their own financial destiny.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember there was a really interesting quote from the law.
Oh, yeah.
It said something like, to grow the nation, they need a digital currency that's based on free market principles and not controlled by anyone.
That's the key part.
Yeah.
Increase national wealth for the benefit of the greatest number of inhabitants, it says.
Powerful stuff. And this idea of control, of autonomy, it leads us to another really important aspect of Bitcoin. Privacy.
Yeah, this is where the cypherpunk movement comes in.
The cypherpunks, they were way ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Our source talks about privacy as a fundamental need in this digital world.
Right.
And it makes the distinction between privacy and secrecy.
Yeah.
Privacy isn't about hiding everything. It's about having the power to choose what you share.
Exactly.
And the cypherpunks, they were all about that. They were fighting for digital rights.
Yeah, they were big on private communication, secure transactions, things like that. They believed in building tools.
Right, tools that governments couldn't control.
Exactly. There's this quote from Wen Day that basically says, governments, they have a tendency to limit freedoms. So instead of just hoping they'll be good, we should focus on creating technology.
Right, build it in from the start.
Yeah, build it in so that they can't control it.
In Bitcoin, it's like the culmination of 40 years of research and development.
Driven by this cypherpunk philosophy.
Yeah, the goal being to separate money from the state and to give individuals more control.
It's a powerful idea.
It is. And then you look at something like China's social credit system.
Oh, right.
Or their digital yuan,
where
everything's tracked and controlled by the government.
Makes you think, right.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Even though China's tried to crack down on Bitcoin, they've got one of the highest adoption rates in the world, maybe it's because people want a way to opt out,
to have some financial privacy.
Yeah, exactly.
In the world where everything's being monitored. And there are some pretty concrete examples of this.
Yeah, like what?
Well, there's Alexei Navalny's Anti-Corruption Foundation in Russia. They were labeled extremist.
Yeah, I remember that.
And their bank accounts were frozen. But they were able to keep operating thanks to Bitcoin donations.
Oh, wow.
Like 666 Bitcoin, which, you can't just erase that.
The blockchain records it all.
Exactly. And it's not just Russia. WikiLeaks also received a ton of Bitcoin donations.
Oh, right.
After they were hit with financial blockades. So Bitcoin's not just some abstract idea.
It's happening now.
It's being used right now to fight censorship and support causes that are being silenced.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about something that's, well, a bit controversial. Energy consumption.
Yeah, that's on that topic.
It is, it is.
Bitcoin uses a lot of energy, and it gets a lot of criticism for that.
Right, the proof of work system.
The proof of work?
Yeah, but, our sources, they point out something really interesting. The traditional banking system, it actually uses almost double the energy.
Almost double.
Yeah. All those branches, ATMs, data centers.
The whole infrastructure.
It adds up. And then there's the difference between energy consumption and co-emissions.
Yeah.
One doesn't always equal the other. It depends on where the energy comes from.
Right, the source.
And get this, 58.5% of Bitcoin miners are using renewable energy sources. And that number, it's expected to keep going up.
That's actually pretty good. I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah, it's a different picture than what you often hear.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And there's this research from Square,
right.
Jack Dorsey's company, and they're arguing that Bitcoin could actually be good.
Good for the environment.
Yeah, good for clean energy. The idea is, as renewable energy tech keeps getting better, it gets cheaper, right?
Yeah.
And since electricity is a big cost for miners, they're going to be looking for the cheapest sources, which will often be renewable. So in a way, Bitcoin mining could actually drive investment.
Oh, interesting.
In clean energy.
Yeah.
Plus, Bitcoin can use up surplus energy, like from solar or wind.
Right, which can be a problem because they're intermittent.
Exactly. Sometimes you have more energy than you need. But Bitcoin mining can use that up.
Yeah, like an energy sponge.
Yeah, it's like an energy sponge. It converts that excess energy into something valuable, which makes those renewable projects more viable.
So maybe Bitcoin isn't the energy villain we thought it was.
Maybe not. It might even be a key player in the transition to a cleaner energy future.
It's definitely a more nuanced conversation.
Yeah, it's not black and white.
Than what you usually hear.
Not at all.
Okay, so after all this, what can we say about what Bitcoin is really for? It feels like we've gone in so many different directions.
I don't know, right? It's not just one thing.
It's like a chameleon. It changes depending on where you look.
Yeah, exactly. The answer, I think, is it depends. It depends on who you are, where you live, what your needs are.
So for some, it's that digital gold, a way to protect themselves against inflation. For others, it's a way to access financial services, especially if their local currency is unstable.
And for others, it's a tool to protect their privacy and their freedom of speech.
And maybe it's even going to play a role in cleaning up our energy system.
Eventually.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. One technology.
It's incredibly versatile.
Yeah, it can be used in so many ways.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what makes it so fascinating. It's not this fixed thing.
Right.
It's constantly evolving, constantly adapting. And that's the beauty of it.
And that's what makes this whole question of what it's for so interesting.
Yeah.
The answer, it's not just out there, it's personal. It's different for everyone.
It's about your own circumstances, your own values.
So for you, our listener, what part of this resonates with you the most? What are you taking away from this deep dive?
And what new questions does it raise for you?
What's got you thinking about the future?
Yeah, the future of digital value, individual freedom, and the world we're creating.
There's a lot to ponder. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.